So since now on, I think I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Ninne Zahara. I am the head of ASEAN Study Center, Universitas Internasional Batam, or UIB, and I will hosting this sharing forums today. So before that, maybe I would like to say hi to every speakers here that already attend the Zoom. I would like to say hi to Mbak Nukila Evanty, Miss Nukila Evanty. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
How are you, Mbak Nukila?
Fine, thank you. How about you?
I'm doing fine as well. Still ongoing with some activities in campus actually. And also I would like to say hi to Miss Melinda Martinus. Hi, Miss Melinda.
Hello. Hey, everyone.
Nice to meet you. Okay. Then I would like to say to Professor Masatoshi Kaimasu.
Yeah,
Hello, Professor.
good
How are
evening,
you?
everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, we also have here Dr. Annu Singh. Yeah, Dr. Annu. Hello. Hi, nice to meet you, Dr. Annu. Okay, and then we have our fourth speaker, Miss Melissa Dajay. Hello, Miss Melissa. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Melissa. And then the last one, as the closing speaker, we have Ibu Rina Shahrullah. Ibu Rina, how are you?
Okay, Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. Sorry, bit off camera.
Okay, no worries. Okay, since we have limited of time, I think we will start our seminar. And in this session, we will talk about how disaster affect different people, especially in Asia. We look at how disasters can make gender inequalities worse and discuss ways to help people who are often left behind, like women, men, and those with diverse gender identities maybe. And together we'll explore how we can all work to make our community stronger and more better when facing disasters. Yeah. So for now, I would like to give the screen to Miss Nukila Evanty to giving an opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Moderator Nina. Can I share my PPT? Yes.
Yes. You would like to share it by your own or by admin?
I think by admin.
Oh, by admin. Okay,
Yeah,
I will.
because I'm disabled now for
Okay.
the
Oh,
for sharing.
sorry. I think you moved me as the co-host, is it?
Right.
Oh, yeah. So I will help you to make the share screen. Okay. All participants can share screen now.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone here. We have. I think I can show it. Okay. How to? Okay. Okay, I would like to first of all, I would like to thanks for all the panelists, outstanding panelists here, comprised of scholars, activists, academia, and also development workers. I can say like that. Join with our third human rights and gender seminar with title. I would like to make it short. Gender impact and linkage to disasters in Asia. So I would like to highlight about the backgrounds of our discussion because as you might be aware as well, Asia Pacific is the most disaster-prone region in the world, according to the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction or UNDRR. And then Asia also account for nearly 1/3, 31% of the weather, climate, and water-related disaster. This is the data from the World Meteorological Organization. And this disaster leaves certain group particularly vulnerable, marginalized in times of crisis, in times of disaster. So who are the marginalized? Marginalized women, disabled people, elderly, and children. And based on the study of ADB, Asia Development Bank, mentioned that a 20-year study on gendered nature of natural disasters shows that in societies where the socio-economic status of women is low, natural disasters kill more women than men, both directly and indirectly through related post-disaster events. So I would like also to highlight about the commitment of many countries and organizations such as United Nations, international organizations, as well as international NGOs, that they have a commitment regarding the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction 2015 until 2013. And also we have like a commitment like a sustainable development goals, which will be ended in 2030. So, and other commitments that we need to tackle the tackle the risk related on disaster to gender. So I think that's all. Yeah, my opening for the discussion, and because we have outstanding panelists here, so enjoy the discussion, and please also stay tuned with our seminar series 4, Youth and Intersectional Gender Issues on 18 November 2023. Over to you, moderator.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nukila Evanty, for your opening remarks. For your information to all the participants, our opening remark speaker, Ms. Nukila Evanty, is an executive director in the Rights Asia Center from Women Working Group Indonesia, and she also the director of Rights as the also the board advisor at Asia Center in Thailand, and also teaching in the law faculty. So maybe if you want to ask more about gender issues, indigenous people issues, she's a really expert on it. Okay, thank you, Ms. Nukila, for your opening remarks. And then I'll move on to for our first speaker in this specific topic in this webinar. We have Ms. Melinda Martinus with us. Hello, Ms. Melinda. Okay.
Hello everyone.
Yes. So I might introduce Miss Melinda first. I will read her short resume that Miss Melinda Martinus is a lead researcher in sociocultural affairs at the Institute of Southeast Asian Studies, Yusof Ishak Institute, Singapore. And Melinda's research interests revolve around regional integration, sustainable development, smart city initiative, digitalization, institutional framework and policy for advancing climate ambitions in ASEAN countries. And she is also the production editor of ISEAS, biannual flagship magazine, ASEAN Focus. In addition, she is the co-editor of the Institute's 2 annual survey reports, the State of Southeast Asia and the Southeast Asia Climate Outlook, which serve as barometers to gauge geostrategic affairs, development, and sustainability issues in the region. Before joining ISEAS, she was a program manager at Kota Kita Foundation Indonesia and a researcher at the Center for Metropolitan Studies at Tarumanagara University, Jakarta. And I think that's all the introduction of our speaker, Ms. Melinda Martinus. So please, Ms. Melinda, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Ninne. It's really my pleasure to be here with you all today. When Barina approached me a couple of weeks ago to deliver a talk about climate disaster and gender, it's very hard for me because I'm not specifically doing research on gender, the intersection of gender and disaster. But nevertheless, in the past few years, I've been involved in the production of the State of Southeast, the Southeast Asia Climate Outlook Survey, which is a flagship publication in our institute. It's I would say it's a region-wide climate survey, comprises more than 1,000. This year we have around 2,000 respondents from all across Southeast Asian countries. So if we see the if we see the survey that which I will present it now, I think
Enggak, aku di ini aja.
most of you will
Itu
get a
masuk
sense
aja.
of how Southeast Asian countries perceive climate threats and how they are aware of government policies for their country. So I'd like to start with my presentation. So there will be plenty of charts and graphics. I hope you bear with me. Yeah. So this is the latest survey that we just launched a couple of weeks ago. It gained a lot of traction from the media, and because it's the only, I would say, the only region-wide climate survey specific to the Southeast Asian region. So why we conduct this survey annually? We really want to see climate attitudes and perspective of the Southeast Asian region. But the result is not meant to be representative. It presents a general view of climate attitudes in the region. If you see the report will be divided into 4 sections. First one is respondents' profile. The second is realities versus expectations in Southeast Asia climate future. And the third section is climate transition issues. And the last one is climate leadership and cooperation. I will only present some interesting findings for this presentation. Yeah, we conduct the survey from July to August. It comprised 39 questions in total, and we collected around 2,200 self-identified Southeast Asian respondents from all 10 ASEAN member states. So the survey was offered in English and translated into 6 languages to reach out to more, to wider respondents. And a little bit technical here, the survey applied country population size and age demographic weightage to ensure sample representativeness of regional responses. Yeah, this is the respondents profile. So as you can see, we get quite representative respondents from all across Southeast Asian countries. A lot of people from Singapore participated in the survey because our center is located in Singapore. So we expect that. And then more than 50% of our respondents, they live in metropolitan areas, which is cities with 1 million population. And this is the age group. I would say our survey is rather full of young people. I think more than 50%, 60% of our respondents here are under 35. And this is the gender breakdown of our respondents. And regarding the education, our respondents, I would say it's quite wide-ranging. We also have some representation from people who hold primary and secondary education. And we also have some data about their socioeconomic status, but instead of collecting how they earn and how much they're spending, we ask our respondents to rate from 0 to 10 about their economic well-being based on their personal assessment. Because it's very hard to ask Southeast Asians about their salary, expenses, and so on, because the disparity is very, very wide. For instance, we have a country like Singapore, which median salary is probably more than $5,000 per month. On the other hand, we still also have like developing countries like Laos, Cambodia, whose median salary is still less than 500. So instead of asking number, we ask more like qualitatively. Yeah, so as you can see here, our respondents mostly rate themselves above 5. So it means that they are quite well in their economic well-being. And this is the affiliation. Surprisingly, we get a lot of people from businesses, finance and industry this year. And the second largest group is student, and also a lot of researcher people dealing with academic affairs participating as well. We asked our respondents about where they get their climate information, climate news. Most of our respondents, they depend more on mainstream news sources like newspaper, radio, television, and major online news sites. Some of them also depend a lot on social media and online influencer and public figures to understand about climate change, which is very, very Southeast Asian, I would say, because social media is such a huge thing in this region. Also probably because our demographic is very young, under 35, so they depend a lot on social media. Now, moving to the section 2 of the report, it's realities versus expectations in Southeast Asia climate future. In this section, we usually ask questions to measure climate awareness and perceptions of government policies to our respondents. So every year we always ask this question. In your view, what are the 3 most serious climate change impacts that your country is exposed to? This question really aims to understand how climate change is perceived on the ground. So as we can see here, the majority of Southeast Asian respondents in our survey mentioned that floods, heat waves, and droughts are the top 3 most serious climate impacts. But there are some variations if we look at the country breakdowns. Flood and tropical storms are top concerns in the Philippines. Sea level rise is the biggest concern in Singapore. And interestingly, we also identified different perceptions between urban and rural respondents. Those living in metropolitan cities are more concerned about heat waves and sea level rise than those living in smaller cities. Next, on government performance in addressing climate change, only 24.8% of our respondents agree that their government considers climate change an urgent priority and allocates sufficient resources to address it. Majority of Singapore respondents hold this positive view. Higher skepticisms are seen in Vietnam, Indonesia, and Malaysia. We trace this perception in the past 3 years. You may see it on the line chart on the left side here. We found that the level of skepticism, which is indicated by light blue and dark purple lines, and the level of positivism, as shown in the teal color, are both increasing this year. Every year, we also ask the questions of who should be responsible for tackling climate impacts. The majority of the respondents say that national governments, businesses and industries and individuals are perceived as the top 3 stakeholders responsible. At country level, interestingly, Brunei respondents included multilateral organizations. Vietnam respondents put subnational governments in their top 3 choices. This is quite interesting finding. Although in the previous question, most of respondents think that national government should be responsible for tackling climate change. The majority of our respondents, particularly in Malaysia, Indonesia, Myanmar, and the Philippines, believe that civil society organizations are the most active. I think these are probably some ASEAN countries that have more engaged more mature civic engagement. And Cambodia, Vietnam have the largest proportions of those who think their national governments are the most active. It should be noted also the higher the educational attainment of the respondents, the more likely they are to think that civil society is the most active. This year, we thought that it is important to include questions about food security and climate change to understand how the issue is perceived in ASEAN. Most of Southeast Asian countries have, as we know, have sizable agricultural land and are among the world's food-producing countries. Climate change will increase the frequency of extreme weather and this will cause reduction in food supply and lead to higher food prices. So more than 2/3 of regional respondents indicated that somewhat or very concerned about climate change impacts on food availability and affordability in the next 3 years. Philippine respondents particularly indicated the greatest concern. Interestingly, concerns over climate change impacts on food security seem to be even across all socioeconomic groups. It really shows that food security is a concern irrespective of income level. Next, we thought it is also important to understand how individual action count in the bigger scheme of things. We asked our respondents about their engagement with climate advocacy. This finding concludes that regional respondents tend to be passive in climate actions. They follow news and sharing information about climate change, and also are willing to adopt more sustainable lifestyle. Interestingly, all the respondents and those who are economically well off are more likely. So I'd like to highlight here, at the country level, Brunei has the largest proportion of respondents who neither participate in nor follow climate-related issues. So that's the section 2 of the report. Now I'd like to move to section 3. Climate transition issues. We asked about the biggest challenge to decarbonization. Regional respondents tend to indicate a lack of R&D and expertise, absence of political will, and insufficient financial resources as main problems. However, views are rather split across affiliations. Those in academia believe the absence of political will is the biggest challenge. Regional and international organizations tend to point out insufficient financing. Meanwhile, the media thinks that insufficient alternative energy resources are an important issue. So next, we ask what is the top concern about the impact of transitioning to renewable energy and cutting the use of fossil fuels. The majority of respondents argue that rising energy prices and cost of living, as well as energy shortages, could entail in the decarbonization journey. At the country level, job losses seem to be a bigger concern in Brunei and Cambodia than the rest of the region. There are some discrepancies between respondents in metropolitan cities who are most concerned about rising energy prices and shortages, and rural respondents who express concerns about loss of jobs and widening socio inequality. Next is about the greatest potential of clean energy sources. Solar received the highest level of approval, followed by hydropower and wind. Support for nuclear energy is extremely low in the region. Only 5.6% of respondents think that this is a viable energy source. Other energy sources like hydropower and geothermal saw significant support from Indonesia. Wind energy is quite popular in Vietnam. Interestingly, Singapore respondents have the most favorable perceptions about green hydrogen, biofuels, and nuclear energy. So the conversation about carbon tax has been gaining traction in the region in the past years. Currently, there are 2 countries in Southeast Asia that have imposed a national carbon pricing policy. In 2019, Singapore enacted a national carbon tax. Indonesia recently has set up a regulation to impose a carbon tax on coal power plants. Other countries like Malaysia and Thailand consider building emission trading systems and imposing voluntary carbon exchanges. We found that respondents from Vietnam, Indonesia, and the Philippines are the most supportive of a national carbon tax compared to the regional respondents. Meanwhile, the majority of Brunei and Laos respondents are unsure about this policy. Not surprisingly, the higher the economic status of respondents, the higher the acceptance of carbon tax. It is quite revealing that those who are at the lower end of socioeconomic status are still concerned about bread and butter issues. I like to skip this, or maybe it's interesting to see a perception about fossil fuel subsidy, because it is such a relevant topic for Southeast Asian countries. A lot of Southeast Asian countries still depend so much on fossil fuel subsidies from government. Although the conversation to remove fossil fuel subsidies have been gaining traction due to more awareness on climate change. More than half of the regional respondents believe that fossil fuel subsidies should be cut. At the country level, respondents from Vietnam, Singapore, and Thailand expressed the strongest support for cutting subsidies. However, the majority of Brunei respondents are unsure about this policy.
Martina, you may have time, like about 5 minutes to go. Thank you.
5 minutes. 5 minutes? Okay, great. And then we also asked a question about what can ASEAN as a regional organization, because it's the only multilateral institution for Southeast Asian countries now to collaborate comprehensively at this moment. So the discussions on ASEAN's role in accelerating the clean energy transition have started, but not in a way that demands collective action. Currently, all ASEAN member states are more focused on meeting their individual Paris Agreement goals. When asked about the role of ASEAN in clean energy transition, the majority of respondents think that ASEAN can facilitate the development of regional energy infrastructure, adopt a renewable energy agreement, and establish an ASEAN Clean Energy Fund. Retirees, academia, businesses, and industries tend to be more supportive of facilitating the development of energy infrastructure. Adoption of a renewable energy agreement and an ASEAN Clean Energy Fund are popular among regional organizations, IGOs, and IOs. Now, I'd like to move to the last section of the report, which is climate leadership and cooperation. This section is rather I would say there are plenty of geopolitical elements in it. We asked about who has the potential to be the region's climate leader. 38.7% of regional respondents believe Singapore has the potential to be the region's climate leader, with Indonesia as the second-ranked choice. These findings are similar to the survey we conducted last year, except this year, Thailand was selected as the third choice. I think the perception that Singapore can be a climate leader in the region really corresponds well with Singapore's intensifying effort. In February 2021, the Singapore Parliament moved a motion to declare a climate emergency and called on the government to take bolder action. To our knowledge, it is the only Southeast Asian parliament to have done so. The government of Singapore also recently announced the Singapore Green Plan 2030 that really outlined the national plan to step up Singapore's climate ambition. We included a question about the most important partners in helping with agricultural climate resilience. Most respondents believe that their neighbors extend climate resilient agriculture to them. This indicates a positive perception that the regional community is a source of mutual support in terms of food security. Interestingly, Laos and Cambodia respondents perceive assistance to come mainly from China, while Vietnam respondents think Japan is their important partner. People affiliated with regional organizations, IGO and IOs, tend to believe that China is the most important actor in supporting climate resilient agriculture technology. And lastly, in this section, we also feature perceptions about the leader in global climate innovation. 23.7% of regional respondents view that Japan is leading in global climate innovation. This includes developing renewable energy technology, green buildings, and nature-based solutions. The European Union came in second place and China in third. However, this perception is quite split across affiliations. Japan is popular among the community of practitioners, such as the media, governments, businesses, and industries. Meanwhile, the European Union is popular among the community of experts, such as international organizations, civil society, and academia. Okay, with that, I'd like to end my presentation here. I'm happy to discuss it further with you later on. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Melinda, for your great presentation. So I would like to conclude from most of your presentations that Southeast Asia facing a lot of serious climate change issues like floods, tropical storms, and also the rising sea level. And the government need to take actions to prevent the more serious climate change issue that can happen in the future. So, and we have seen a lot of various practice from more countries to prevent and their action to prevent another climate change issues for the future. So I would like to invite our next speaker our next speaker will become Prof. Masatoshi Kaimasu from Kobe's Women University, Japan. Okay, Prof. Masatoshi, are you here already? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. I would like to introduce your short resume, which I get from your LinkedIn, that you are an associate professor at Kobe's Women University. Prof. Masatoshi also a part-time lecturer at Fukuoka University, and he is specialized in design and planning for government projects, capacity enhancement, project management, and project evaluations. So to Professor Masatoshi Kaimasu, please, the screen is yours.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So I'd like to talk about the tonight the disaster and the gender issue in Japan. But actually, my professional field is not like a gender or the disaster, but I myself experienced in the earthquake in Jakarta when I lived in Jakarta. And so also Japan, as you know, like say, Japan is a disaster-prone country. So this is the when I visit Batam last month, then I was Lina-san also asked me to the present, then so I just like accepted. So shall I move to my presentation? So my presentation is actually my slide is not I don't have any much data, but I can show the example of the Japanese example, and then so let's move to my presentation, the slide. So just a moment. Okay. Is it okay to see the slide? My slide.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so actually outline of my presentation is first one, the disasters in Japan, then restoration. It's actually I talk about the basic act in disaster management in Japan. Then third one is Jijo, Kyojo, and Kojo. It's all the Japanese, but Jijo is like a self-reliance. Then Kyojo is the support help in a community basis. Then also support from the public sector is a Kojo, the last one. Then so next one is the gender aspect of the disaster in Japan. Then one example I also showed. Then the final one is summary. Okay. So in Japan, we have many like earthquake, tsunami, water typhoon, or like a volcano eruption in the past. So the old monument for the earthquake here is this is the one. This is the old one. Then so this monument also make us not forget the kind of natural disaster. Disaster comes soon. Then so we have many Japan, as you know, like the many natural disaster prone country, and then so we have three major natural disaster: earthquake. So earthquakes is also lead to the tsunami sometime, and also the typhoon and volcano. Also, we have many volcanoes in Japan, as like the Philippines or Indonesia, the same. And so the photo is also this photo also show this is just like a monument to not forget that water comes here like flooding. Then so number of the earthquake in 2022 was 1,964. So according to Japan's meteorology agency. So I also check in the right hand side. This list show the 10 recent earthquake in Japan. I just check it on 1st of October. Then so in the past, like say more than just is more than like magnitude 4.0. And this is the is earthquake frequently occur. Okay, and then so I also remember, and because when the Great East Japan earthquake in 2011, so at the time I was in Jakarta. Then I watched the TV. Then so the flooding, tsunami also hit Japan coast and many regions, many places in the east part of Japan. Then so the Great East Japan earthquake in 2011 had a huge impact in various dimensions, like say Fukushima nuclear power plant also is actually leaked radiation. Then so there are so many like earthquakes in Japan. Then and the typhoon, we have many typhoons here, and more than 10 typhoon annually. Then so some typhoon is big one, then like a super typhoon. And so 5 years ago, big typhoon came to the Osaka. Then so this ship will be collide in the bridge between like a Kansai airport and also main island. And so we have many like typhoons here. Then so the volcano also we have many volcanoes. So thanks to the volcano, we have many hot spring. We can enjoy the like I say onsen hot spring, but at the same time, volcano also sometimes erupt. Then so some people die. And so this is the Aso, Mount Aso is located in Kyushu, and so Mount Aso erupt quite a lot. Yeah, so this is the largest one. Is like say quite long time ago, but damage is like a big spread, huge area. Then so we may like say in the future, so like Mount Fuji can erupt. I'm not quite sure, but it is highly likely to erupt. Yeah, okay. So the second one is the registration. So there I talk about the basic act of the disaster management. So the due to the Iseman Typhoon Bera in 1959, so the government also concerned about the damage and also some of the victims. Then so the regulation law was needed. Then they protect land and also Japanese people from the natural disaster. Then so the act also is a comprehensive plan, disaster prevention and mitigation. Then so the act also aimed to protect Japanese land, lives, and property. And so the act also regulates the various relevant issue to maintain social order and the welfare. So actually, it's the 146 articles comprise of the this act. Then so but I also showed like just like 4 points here for this act. The first one is is strength immediate reaction to the large scale and the broad disaster. So this is the government, and especially like the central government, also they kind of show the direction. Then so they decide the government policy, like emergency policy countermeasure, and measures to maintain the stabilize the people as life in economic activities. Direction also and the supervision under the Prime Minister. The government also will work together to deal with these issues. Then so they not only the central government, but also the local government need to do some work. So the second and the third point is related local government. So the second one is confirming smooth and safe evacuation of the residents. This point focus on the local government should designate 2 types of facility of the location evacuation in advance, especially in like an immediate emergency. For the immediate emergency, so they also need to the facility and places, and so the this is the second point. Then so the after the immediate emergency, so several days later, they also need some other like shelters, and so that is the third point. So the in advance, they also the local government also designate the shelter to stay for the certain period. This is also different from the emergency evacuation. So mainly, so the emergency like at the place, so the is designate in like a school, like say field, but for the like shelter and for sleep and eating, so they also so the most like facilities are also school or the community center like this. Then final one is a strong disaster prevention effort regularly. So all emergency measure must be take responsibility to continue to necessary business activity during the disaster. So the all party must promote collaboration agreement between like public and private entities. So maybe they all like say not only like public but also private sector need to like help each other like this. Then so the governments at the central and local government local levels tackle disasters in normal time. Sufficient preparedness is needed. Like they,
yes, you have 5 minutes left. Thank you.
Okay. So in advance, they need to the facility or some regulation. But after that, after disaster response and also the disaster recovery from the disaster, they also need. So but also the many my question is the all support from the public entities enough for the disaster victims. So the this is the disasters happen. Then so the few days later, then after that it's like this. So the so as the registration, the law also the designate area like a school to evacuate, but also some area, some people cannot go. Then so go into the undesignated on the unofficial the places like a garage, local community houses. They also some people also want to stay in their own houses, or they may be relative houses. But these people are not enough. Here is not enough drink and but some storage. And here is bring the food, drink, and shelter. And also they need to, especially for the house people, they also need to use food and drink short storage. So but in Naraka, say this area, no privacy, no hygienics, and sometimes. And also hard to sleep in shelter. Then some people also move to, like I say, official local houses or their own houses. Then, but also this area, no food supply, no information. But we also go to like the, like this area and to request the food, and but sometimes they reject it. So the food must be like I say here, small like this. Then so that we also need then so the answer is the support from the public is not enough. Then so we must maybe focus on 3 types of the jijo, kyojo, and kojo. Jijo is like individual self-reliance, and this is also community self-reliance. And kojo is like government assistance. So they all like say these like say help. These aspect must be important.
Okay.
So, for example, this is this is example of the kyojo. So the local people also help the other, like say here is like a young people help to the older people, especially they cannot go without anything. Then so they also try to avoid evacuate from the flood, tsunami, after the earthquake happened. Okay, and also the gender aspect of the disaster victims. So in accordance with the basic act of the disaster management plan is periodically revised, but some group, women, aged people, and non-Japanese are taken into account for the disaster management plan because so the most here, like the most manager in an emergency place are male. So many wives need to take care of their children without enough support from the husband in evacuation shelters. Also, Japanese men need to work hard. Then so too much work. Then so they can they also like say got the sickness from the like, say their disaster after disaster like this. So the gender aspect is also very important for the disaster victims. Yeah. Then also, I also show the one example. This is the, so all the people must be the resilience. So also think more like say, deeply and deeper like this. So this is the one, it's card game. But also this is the after the Kobe earthquake in Kobe. So city of the Kobe, council of Kobe also made this card game. Then so in like 2 choices all the time, like say here is a card include many dilemmas. So we have a secure 200 meals for the disaster for the shelter with 3,000 people. So should we distribute food or not? No matter which option you choose, you will have to make sacrifices like this. So the this card game makes you to think when like say the disaster happen, then so they also have a chance to think about the like a dilemma like this.
Sorry,
Okay.
Professor. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
summary.
can see some.
Yeah.
Thank
So the yeah. So the countermeasure for the disaster is prevention and preparedness. Is maybe before the disaster, also after the disaster, response recovery, and also all parties involved in disaster management, local level and central level. So the gender aspect should be taken into account more the disaster, more than for the disaster management. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Masatoshi Kaimasu, for your presentations. It has been shown that Japan has been well managed, especially about the disaster management. I've seen how much it's grown, about the public policy since back then until now. So the women will involve a lot more in disaster management, as you mentioned, at the gender aspects for disaster victims, like, and also in the every parties are involved in disaster management, which shown how manageable the disaster management in Japan. Thank you so much, Professor Masatoshi Kaimasu. And I will move on to the next speaker of us. We have Miss Annu Singh, from the Community Institution and Gender Specialist Transform Rural India Foundation, India. Hello, Miss Annu Singh. Yeah, I would like to introduce your short resume. For now, Ms. Annu Singh is a community institution and gender specialist, and also supports the training of community leaders, cadres, and panchayat functionaries of the National Rural Livelihood Mission System. Her role is to create self-reliant women cadres and enabling environment in the most affected states of India. Anu has more than 14 years of work experiences in the development sector. She received Prime Minister's Rural Development Fellowship initiated by Ministry of Rural Development in 2012. She has shared her expertise at global platforms like Global Youth Forum at Bali, UNFPA, Danish Youth Council, Copenhagen, and the other youth-led organizations. She was selected and designed Youth Ambassador by UNESCO and worked on various assignments related to the young people. Okay, so Miss Annu Singh, the screen is yours. Please.
Thank you very much, Ninne. It was a huge introduction from your side, actually. And thank you very much, WWG, for inviting me for this Human Right and Gender series. From my side, I would like to, give a brief kind of a information what's happening in India and how we are dealing with the disasters like situation, and how gender kind of dynamics are impacting in the whole situation. So I would like to ask admin if they can upload my presentation so that I can start with. So yeah, as we already know, this natural hazards such as floods and earthquake and landslides. So all these are gender neutral, but the impact on women and children, these are not gender neutral. So it can be seen differently for them. Men and women, boys and girls and children affected differently from the disaster situation, even if they live in the same situation, household also. Why I am saying this? Because when due to lack of bank accounts, women hold a large share of their assets in tangible form than men. And because of that, if they are not having any kind of a bank account, so the losing of their money is more, higher than the losing of the money of or asset of the men. So in the situation like this, then gender disparity, gender vulnerability is more vulnerable for the women and for the children and for the female partners. So to understand the whole situation, how we are dealing with the situation, how gender impacts and how this gender vulnerability works. Please go to the second slide. So there is a conceptual framework was developed and adopted by the World Bank in 2012. So this framework is called Conceptual Framework for Considering Gender Dynamics and Disaster Impact. If you will see the orange circle, so this is the area where you will see like the situation. Disaster impacts depends on the intensity of the disaster, also like type of the disaster, exposure, level of the vulnerability, and what kind of preparedness we are having, and also the coping capacity. If you will see the purple section, so it shows the gender inequality in society. So gender inequalities in society, this is something where, men are, and women, according to their roles and responsibility, there are differences which occurs more. This is the place where you can see after the disaster, how they are planning to, deal with the situation, how they react from this situation. So this all disparity and inequality arises from this side. In the disaster impact and gender inequality intersection, you will see there is a maroon portion. So this is the impact factors shaped or shared by the gender dynamics. So this is the area where it is most vulnerable area, where disaster risk management and related policy and the plans need to be implemented. So through this whole conceptual framework, we can see this framework can be used for any disaster situations to deal with the situation, and especially when the women and child or girl child are more affected. Please go to the third slide. Yeah, so as I already mentioned, I'm going to explain just in the Indian context what kind of disaster we are facing and how this is impacting our Indian society, especially the tribal population, the more vulnerable and weaker section of the society, and for impact of the women, that is also where I'm going to explain. So as we see, like this Indian geoclimatic condition is, very prone to disaster. And because of that, India is more vulnerable to disaster impacts. So there is we have faced situations like flood, drought, heat wave, cyclone, mini tsunamis, and earthquakes also. And landslide is also in the hilly area is more recurrent phenomena. And this intensity can be, range varies. It can if I'm talking about the intensity, so 59% of the land mass is prone to earthquake with the various intensities, and also 40 million hectare land is very prone to flood. And if we will talk about the drought, so 69% of the land is drought susceptible. So if we will see the whole situation, so the situation is like this. Almost 50 to 70% of the land of the India is more prone to vulnerability and also related to any kind of a disaster like a situation. In India, we have in 1999 we have faced a super cyclone in Odisha, one of the state of the poorer state of the India, and in there was a earthquake in Bhuj, Gujarat, and in 2013, sorry, there was a Kedarnath, this flood was also there. And if I will tell you, so in the northeastern state of Sikkim, recently we are having a very huge flood, and still we are dealing the side effect of that flood. Beside this, I think we should consider this COVID-19 as a, it was a huge pandemic, and there was a greater side effect on the women and child, basically, because most of the women and the child, they were more impacted by in the rural community. So because of that, COVID-19 has increased the burden of unpaid care and domestic work. So most of the time, like women were losing their jobs, and they were, going back to the home, and they are dropouts from the school also in the situation like that. So also in informal sectors, if you will see, so they were losing their jobs, and informal sectors, even if they are working, so their jobs were for fewer hours, and because of that, they were not having sufficient income for them to lead their life. Also, in this situation, women resources were hit harder. And there are few pictures I have taken from the Google. So there is one picture of drought and flood, and there was Kedarnath flash flood, and also there is a fire in the forest, in forest area. Can we move to the next slide? So going back to the what kind of acts, policies and programs and initiatives have been done by the government. So in 2005, Government of India notified Disaster Management Act.
Okay.
So the idea of provide this act was to develop a kind of a situation where any kind of a disaster situation, we have a plan, we have kind of a people at the place, so that they can work in a coordination and can work together and deal with the situation. So at the various level, they have established wings, so that prevention and mitigation effects of disaster can be undertaken holistically. Also, if you will see, so at national level, there is a National Disaster Management Authority, which is chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister, and a state level, in each state, we have a State Disaster Management Authority, and which is chaired by the Chief Minister of states. And at district level, in each district, we have a kind of a setup where District Disaster Management Authority is built, and which is shared by the district magistrate. So the major responsibility of all this setup is to handle any kind of a hazardous situation in the district and states and country. So this is the provision under the District Disaster Management Act, which was launched in 2005. Can we move to the next? So going back to the gender dynamics and disaster impact and adaptation in India. So if we will see disaster impacts majorly on the gender roles, why I am saying this? Because I already have discussed about during the situation of COVID-19 pandemic, like most of the women were staying back to the home. And if I will take another example, so in the situation like drought, or maybe situation like if there people who are tribal, especially the tribal community, who are living and dependent on this anti-FP produce, this forest produce. So if they are not getting forest produce in the disaster situation, so they are lacking behind their income, because they are not getting any kind of a produce from the forest. Due to that, there is a situation like migration occurs in the community, because they are not getting proper food for the family, they are not getting income, and because of that, if they are migrating some other place or some other state, so it is likely possible for other family members, especially for the girl child, to drop out from the schools, because in that situation it is very recurrent phenomena for the younger girl in the family to take care of the like infant kid, or maybe they are forced to do the household chores. So that kind of a situation already like always occurs. Also, in the situation like disaster, there is a change in gender roles. There is also the women, especially the women and girls, become more vulnerable in the marginalized community. Marginalized community, why I'm saying this? Because in the situation like disaster, these people are not getting surplus amount, surplus income. And because of that, they are lacking the education, they are not getting the proper healthcare services, and there is a lack of resources. Also, in the situation like, if there are disaster and there are pregnant women and there are small kids or maybe newly born babies are there, so they are more vulnerable in this situation, because they need special care. There is a requirement for special kind of a provision for them. In situation like that if they are not getting, so there is they are more prone to higher mortality rate if they will not get proper food, or maybe if there is a situation where they need sanitary pads or something like that, so they are not getting it, so they are more prone to different kind of disease also. And safe like water, drinking water, and also the food is basic requirement. In the situation like that, it's very difficult to get food and drinking water, safe drinking water. So they can, because of the contamination of the water and other things, it is very common to get infected the water, and they will get in touch to various kind of disease also. Situation like this, mostly women are, most of the time they are overburdened to go back to their, their traditional responsibility. Even if they came out from the situation where they are trying to earn, or they are going, they are become more mobile, but once the disaster happens, the situation changes within the second. Because of the disaster, we can see the violence and exploitation is very higher. Why? Because why I am saying this? Because if the people, for example, living in a shelter, living in a place where they are not, getting proper space or privacy and all things, so they are very prone to different kind of violence. There are examples of this trafficking, and also it lead to gender-based violence. Also, there are cases of rape and other cases of kind of various kind of violence women faces in the situation like that. So it is very difficult for for especially for the minority community, especially for the women, especially for the girl child, to tackle the situation of various kinds of disaster, and to live in the situation like that. Please go to the next slide. So for adoption and empowerment through community-led intervention, during my work, I have realized it is very kind of important and necessity to adopt a strategy, effective strategy, in which the involvement of women, especially the marginalized community, is very important. And for that, we need to teach them, to educate them, and to provide some kind of a training, so that, and also also provide them resources so that they can cope up from the situation. And for them, we need to create a kind of make a plan in the participation of these women and girls, so that comprehensive planning process can be initiated in the community. Also, during the disaster situation, it has been seen in the especially in the rural area, the decision-making power is not in the hand of women, but in the situation like disaster, they are more vulnerable because somehow that this decision-making process is not being ensured by the government, by the community. So for effective adoption strategy, it is very crucial and important to uh, uh, to to make women to participate in the planning process, so that we can build a very good quality policy and plans for them. And because of that, like uh, in the because of the participation, it will be useful for everyone to cope up with the situation like disaster. So also, like we can see there are at different level, we have people placed in the system, but and government policies are also there. But if we will see, so there is a gap between community and the government. So most of the time government play a role of a service provider, and community is the section where all the services need to be go kind of a, it can be considered as a drop down approach. But there is a gap between the formation of the power policies, and also there is a gap between the person who is taking for the policy for them making. That is there is a gap. So if we will build kind of a bridge for them to bridge the gap between government policies and their intervention, so this community can play a major role to ensure. Because if we will make plans in the AC room, so it is very difficult for like a community, because their needs can be different. So if community will come forward, and like policies and plans will be will be in a place where the participation of the community will be ensured. So that will be the good situation for everyone.
Okay, madam, your time is up. You have the closing statement for this, please.
Okay, so so I was talking about the community engagement. So there is also requirement for kind of awareness programs where, like, it is not during the disaster situation, but it should be prior to disaster, during the disaster, and post disaster also. So there we can have campaigns, we can have skill develop plans, we can have workshop, we can have other need assessment plans, so that we can form a very gender we can have campaigns to challenge the traditional gender norms, and we can form a more equal and resilient society in such times, or such situations also. So this is all from my side, and we can have more discussion during Q&A. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you also for you, Ms. Annu Singh, for your good presentation regarding the India's disaster management. And I saw that, and I can conclude that India also have some potential of disaster, especially when the COVID-19 pandemic, it gave a lot of impact in India for itself. So for the strategies about the gender awareness, I hope I also can conclude that on gender disparities in disaster through community-based training programs, workshops, skill development plans, and awareness campaigns, it can help to enhance the gender dynamics and disaster impacts and adaptation, especially in India and in Asia. Okay, we come to our last speaker of this sharing forum. We have with us Ms. Melissa Dajay from Community Mobilizer, United Nations Human Settlements Program, the Philippines. So, hello, Ms. Melissa, how are you?
Hi, good evening.
I will read your resume. Yeah, thank you. I will read your resume. It's your Miss Melissa Dajay is a community organizer with United Nations Human Settlements Program for the post-Yolanda supports for the Safer Homes and Settlements Program. It is a community-driven approach to recovery and rehabilitation in the Visayas. She is a development worker who works with intergovernmental organizations in post-conflict and post-disaster rehabilitation in the Philippines. And for her internship, she was given the opportunity to join the Department of Social Welfare in Development in Region 6 through its convergence program in the Community Empowerment Activity Cycle or the CEAC process. And maybe she also worked as NGO consultant and directly facilitated research projects that scrutinize public health issues and environmental safety in the Philippines. So for Miss Melissa Dajay, the screen is yours.
Thank you for the introduction, and I am very happy and grateful to be able to share the experience in post-disaster and post-conflict later in my presentation. But I'm not really in gender specialist. I am more on the community development. But however, the process that we had in implementing the programs is the gender is integrated in the community-driven approach or the people's process that we implemented here in the Philippines. So with that, my presentation will be focusing on the community-driven approach or the people's process. So I would like to share. Can you just give me a minute for this?
Or do you need my help to present it for you, like previous one? Miss Annu also, I also help Miss Annu to share screen. Do you want me to share for you?
If that's possible.
Yes, sure. Here it is. Is it seen clearly?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay.
Can we move to the PowerPoint?
Yeah, it is already. Oh, you made this?
No.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Can we go back to the first slide? Thank you.
This one?
Yes. UN Habitat, together with the Philippine government and the people of Japan, implemented the post-disaster and post-conflict rehabilitation in the Philippines, called the community-driven approach or the people's process on shelter recovery in the Philippines. So can we move to the second slide, please? So I would like to share about the Philippines. Philippines is we are really famous on beaches and crystal whites oceans in the Philippines, but we are consist of course 7,107 islands located on Southeast Asia, and we have major islands here like Luzon from the north, Visayas in the middle, and Mindanao in the southern part of the Philippines. And we have also consist of volcanic islands, including active volcanoes, and we are surrounded by flat lowlands and coastal plains with long coast. Recently, we actually experienced major volcanic eruptions. Not really eruptions, but we have active volcanoes here in the area, like the Taal volcano. And then because Philippines really located in the Pacific Ring of Fire, and we are really vulnerable disasters. We have experienced natural disasters like in 2013, that was Typhoon Haiyan, the biggest typhoon that devastated in the Philippines. And of course, we are experiencing earthquakes and of course volcanic hazards. And we also experienced long-lasting armed conflict in Mindanao. And we have increasing negative impacts in climate change that hinders the sustainable development and intensify poverty in the Philippines. So recently, we've experienced the conflict, the Marawi siege in the Philippines. Can we move to the third slide, please?
Okay.
Yeah, for the rebuilding support in rebuilding lives for the communities, we have these components that we use. We are really focusing on the community-driven approach or the people's process, wherein the families are really in the center. No, we are making the communities more resilient, and we have this promoting community engagement for them to be able to more. Self-help, no, in case there is a disaster or there is a post engagement like in conflict or disaster. So first, of course, the financial assistance, and of course the technical advice that coming from the international organization who will be facilitating the program. Of course, because the families and the communities are the center in the process, so we build the confidence, no, confidence in making the decision, and implementing the project, and allowing them to have the opportunity, no, to decide and develop their own system that would really benefit for them and fit to the process. Of course, the mobilization for allowing the communities to be empowered, and of course, be in the process, and uh, uh, supporting and allowing them to engage from the scratch up to the implementation of the program. Since our focus is building the communities, and it is more on and the security of giving, of facilitating the program interventions, that the community has a place to live, no more, they're more on secure, because they have the confidence, they mobilize, they were empowered, and of course with that they have the security to be able to gain, and with all this support from the implementing agencies. Can we move to the fourth slide, please?
Okay. Hello, Miss Melissa. Seems like Miss Melissa is kicked out from the Zoom. Okay. Miss, I need to come back. Here is Melissa. Miss Melissa is already getting. Okay, she's here now. Okay. You'd like to continue your
Sorry,
okay. Yeah, you
yes.
it's about you
Please
have,
bear.
I'm sorry, but you have about 7 minutes left for your presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Uh, of course, why do we use the community-driven approach? Of course, the people make choices concerning their own development, develop confidence and ownerships and sense of camaraderie, and of course they play a important role in the process in terms of mobilizing resources from the roots of sustainable development. Next, please.
Okay.
So in terms of the process, it is more, we really uh, advocate the people's process approach, because this is purely a community-driven participatory approach, wherein we don't involve contractors, and of course we inject a local economy to the communities, and we involve home partners, the partners in, of course, in construction, if there is a skilled worker in the community. So we mobilize them and be part of the process. Next, please.
Yes, already.
Yeah, actually, sorry, my internet connection is not really stable, but I'm
Okay.
trying. Yes.
Okay. No worries, no worries.
Yeah. So, of course, in the people's process, we have better inequality of involving the communities. Like we develop, if there is a skilled worker in the communities, we allow them and ask them to be part of the program, and they also have these economic activities that will go back to the community. With the people's process, we promote transparency and accountability. So we organize communities, turn into homeowners association, and they were processed and get their own accounts, and then the funding from the our generous funder from the government of Japan will go directly to the association, and the community has the set of officers who will of course show and then discuss within the community members. And with that, there is more impact empowered women and youth in that areas, because we really focus on the families who are really affecting in the process, and a high level of acceptance from the communities, because they were recognized and they were involved from in the process. Next, please. So for the very, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, can.
Yeah. So for the very recent engagement that we had implemented in post-conflict rehabilitation and in post-disaster during Typhoon Haiyan and Marawi Siege, we were able to have empowered community leaders in patriarchal society. So women, through the people's process, work the people's process work in crisis situation, where women as a homemakers have been afforded and venue to have emerge as community leaders in the society through the people's process. With that, also, like for in patriarchal in Muslim community, where women also recognize and have given an opportunity to engage in the project, has gained leadership positions and have given the blessings from the ulama. So next, please.
Okay.
We have one women who are running for the elected officers. She was elected as the president of the federations in one of our resettlement sites. So given that women can assert their rights and ensure their voices are seen and acknowledged, women and girls living in safe and secure environment, men supporting the right, and of course injecting the positive transformations, will surely liberate the women to take their responsibility in their settlement. So through the people's process, it's really giving the opportunity for the women to have this given the safe space to develop as a community leaders and rebuild their own hopes shattered by the disaster or the conflict that they encountered. Next, please.
You have 2 minutes left.
So these are the community-driven approach framework. That's really, it's a combination of the technical and the community development throughout the process. So we have stages that really involve a gender component throughout the process. Next, please. So therefore, we really, community is at the center of the process in terms of in identifying the works, designing the works, construction management, managing finances, procurements of materials, managing labor, and of course, storekeeping and accounting of fundings, accountability as the association. With that, the community-driven approach or the people's process is really the community is be able to have this self empowerment that they could really acknowledging their participation in throughout from the scratch up to the implementation of the process. I will share a little bit about the videos on the people's process. Thank you. And that's end my.
Okay, let me check if we can play it for a moment. Is it can be here now?
Yeah.
Does the voice clear? Can you hear the voice?
No, no, not clear, but no voice.
Let me try once again.
Cycle of poverty goes
Okay, that's it.
when the poor and most vulnerable are pushed deeper into poverty, and families are left more and more defenseless against
Tapos yun na hindi na lang ako balang naamon halos was out tanan nag-ubra na akong banas ang gamay lang kapayag-payag na tupong man sa among ulo. Tapos nung yung nabalitaan na namin na may papasok na UN, talagang sabi ko ina ng mahal na Diyos yung pray ko na talagang may pabahay din tutulong sa akin. Tapos asawa ng gabatay na sa panday, tapos ako ga-prepare sa mga mga snack, tapos mga bata ko nag-serve. Wow, namin lahat ng paglintaw, namin ang mga paghulag, tapos may CR na kami, wala damo namin. Kasi sumabas, bulan, wala na kami nakulbaan, mahimbing na tulong sa mga kabataan.
In July 2014, the Post-Land Support for Safer Homes and Settlements was launched to facilitate shelter recovery and rehabilitation in Haiyan-affected communities in Capiz and Iloilo. The primary goal was to capacitate Haiyan-affected communities in the two provinces, as well as local government units, through a community-driven approach called the People's Process. The process hinged on enabling the community to champion its own recovery through partnership. Partnership is not just a byword here. It is the backbone of the People's Process, the impetus that brought several actors together, each one bringing something to the table that could help, be it funding, technical expertise, land access, and other means of support.
For us, recovery starts at day one. And here, it's not just about providing them houses. It's also trying to help them do the recovery. I think the impact of the community goes beyond the number of houses and infrastructure that we have constructed, but more on how the people have now developed themselves to be more resilient, to be more sustainable in the long run.
Through close mentorship with project implementers, beneficiary communities learn to build back their own homes safer and better. They learn how to manage construction and handle project funding. They were just as socially and economically accountable to the people they serve.
Pag sa ako nga pananawan, palaganap namon ang kung paano namon mapatibay ang isa ka balay nga nagdimuba ni Landa. Dirigin training kami sa UN Habitat para mabuligan namon ang isa ka panimalay nga nawaskan kung paano nila mapatindog, maisaayos ang ilang balay, maski light materials lang. Yung instruction na namon nga muni maski ba ay kamo yaging patindugan sa UN Habitat, dako gidyang mabulig sini sa inyo nga paggandak namo sa assessment. Dako gidyang mabulig sini sa inyo.
The People's Process enabled communities to benefit not just from the output of the project, but from the process itself.
Kakaroon lang ng plano ng bahay ay yung mga mayayaman lang. Pero dito, bawat bahay ay binigyan ng plano na tuto silang magbasa ng plano. Yung UN Habitat ay nagdandak ng seminar dito sa amin, DRR seminar, para i-train ang mga tao kung paano maging disaster resilient. Doon ngayon pumasok yung resiliency. Ano man ang mangyari, may preparasyon na kayang gawin.
Progress. Through the People's Process, the Post-Land Support for Safer Homes and Settlements enabled the construction of 660 houses for Haiyan-stricken families in Capiz and Iloilo. The training of over 300 local artisans and workers on the RR construction methods, the completion of 54 community improvement projects, over 4,500 households benefiting from enhanced DRR know-how, and the continuing endeavor towards sustainable community development and resilience. The Philippines suffers an onslaught of around 20 typhoons a year, and Haiyan will not be the last extreme event to hit our shores. But the People's Process has enabled us to better withstand future disruptions, as long as we do so together.
Okay, thank you.
I think
Maybe due to the limitation of time, we can only
that's,
do one video for that. Do you want to give closing statement?
I think, yeah, thank you for allowing us to share the People's Process approach, wherein the community is really the center of involving them to be part in the process. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Melinda, for your presentation. So maybe we can conclude that how Filipina collaborate a lot with UN Habitat to maybe make a rehabilitation after the Yolanda's typhoon, the disasters in the Philippines. We can see how much UN Habitat also involved to rehabilitate the housings of the people of Philippines from that video and also from all the presentations. And now, thank you, Miss Melissa. So we move on to the next session, which we come to the Q&A sessions from the audience. And I would like to give chances to the participants in the Zoom meeting. You may raise your hands or you can put your questions in the chat box. So I will read it for you later. Thank you. We give a chance for 2 questions first. Anybody would like to give a question?
Okay, yeah, okay. Probably Francis first because I'm part of this organization.
Yeah,
Okay, and
I,
this event.
I also have a
Okay,
question for this,
go
so
ahead, go
I'll
ahead.
save my question for later. Thank you. Francis Daniel Milinyi, you may give your questions to who, and please introduce yourself and to who you want to ask your question.
Okay.
Yes.
I think you all can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Francis Mbilinyi, and now I'm a student here at the Universitas International Batam. I would like to ask Ibu Melinda. Yeah, I would like to know how the youth participation, the youth participation on this issue of disaster combating, and also I would like also to the same question that how the participation of youth in combating the disasters to Professor Masatoshi from Japan also. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But Nina,
can you continue your question?
Yeah, my question is I would like to know the average or the number of the youth participation in combating those disasters. How the youth are involved in combating.
Okay, to Miss Melinda, do you want to answer
Yeah.
it directly, or we gotta wait for
Yeah.
another?
Do you?
Oh,
Okay.
you can answer
first
first. The questions. First.
Okay. Okay, I can answer first. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, our survey, our exercise with the Southeast Asia Climate Outlook Survey, we gather some data on age. We try to analyze whether age is a factor in shaping perspective about climate change, climate policy. Whether youth in the region, in the ASEAN region, they have a certain perspective about some issues. But I'm quite surprised by this exercise that I would say that Southeast Asian youth they don't really, I mean, in terms of their progressivity in being involved in climate change issue, it's not really that significant in this exercise. I'm not sure why the reason behind this finding. Probably because it's such a large scale survey, right? It's 2,000 participants across Southeast Asian countries. And probably the youth participating in our survey, they live in different geographies, and also they have like different exposures to climate change. So it doesn't really form a certain perspective. Yeah, I would expect it maybe in the future, youth in the region will be more progressive in their view about climate change and in their view about their government participation in shaping this discourse.
Okay, thank you, Miss Melinda. If that's all about the answer to Francis' question, Francis, do you want to ask things more? Is it clear?
Yeah, I think it's clear. It's clear.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Francis, for your questions. For another questions, probably, do we have? more more questions on the floor?
I think there's a question also for Professor Kaimasu. It's the same questions addressed to Ibu Melinda.
Yeah. Regarding the Japan disaster management problem, maybe from Professor Masatoshi Kaimasu, do you want to give your perspective of answer, please?
Okay, so the school education is most important. Then so the in a school at school, so we have many like programs like say, so the one car will come. It is kind of the simulator to the like earthquake, and so the also once we have a every once every year. So especially 1st of September is the Memorial Day. To also we conduct some drill to the like evacuate. Then so this is also important for the youth. So the to combating the like say disaster, and also the public for the to the rising public awareness. Some like maybe at school. So some programs like say, as I mentioned in my presentation paper, like say they also conduct the they play like a card game. Then so they maybe this is quite fun, but at the same time, they also need to know how to choose the dilemma situation like this. Then also government also disclose some information like this hazard map. Once we have a maybe disaster like earthquake, so we need to go some escape from the disaster, the earthquake. Should we go to like the school somewhere like in a region? That this is also important. So that's all my answer.
Okay, thank you, Professor Masatoshi. Miss Anu, do you want to give your perspective of answer, please? Thank you.
Yeah, so in my opinion, it is very, important to engage youth actually in any kind of a situation. It is not even the disaster. If you will see in context of India, so there is I'm going to tell you this is through my previous experience. I was working with young people for 4-5 years for their policy advocacy in India, because we were having the policy for young people, but the implementation was not there. So during that process, I have found there is a social scientist called Roger Hart. So there is there is a tool developed by the Roger Hart. It is called Roger Hart Ladder of Participation, and this tool is being used for the young people to understand what is the level of the young people to participate in the whole political process. So we have found young people have reached only at the step 1, step 2. So they are mostly doing the work, they are organizing the event, they are doing the seating arrangements, they are handling the mic and all these things. But after the intervention of the project, youth has realized we need to work to enter in the policy making process. We need to give our opinion in this process. So I personally feel for any kind of a situation, if it is a situation like disaster, so young people should not only use in a decorative way, they should also give some kind of a promotion or some kind of a play, so that they can also realize their responsibility and how they can channelize their energy, how can they can channelize their their opinion, and they can also influence the whole policy process. Because these youth were the rural youth and they were not knowing we can also participate. And after 5 years of the work, we have found in the this local constituency, young people were coming out, and they were the Panchayati Raj members. They were become the political members at the village level and the panchayat level and also the block level. So I think it is also about to understand what we can do from our side and how we can do. So this is what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Annu Singh, for your perspective. So I would like to give another chance to your participants. Maybe Ibu Rina, you want to give a question, please?
Yes, thank you, Ibu Nina, sorry. I would like to ask actually to Mbak Melissa then Melinda. Okay, but I will start with Mbak Melinda. Mbak Melinda, I would like to know the limitation of your surveys. You know, what are the loopholes? Because that's very important as a researcher. So we know that that could be something that we could improve for the tools for next year. Is it annually, right? Annual survey, yes. Okay, that's the for Ibu Melinda. And for Melissa, is Melissa still here? Yes, Melissa. I'm interested in that because when we were in Austria, I asked you a lot of questions about that. Okay, in Batam, we also have the project Habitat for Humanity. Okay, but as you mentioned in the Philippines and UN Habitat, okay, I'm wondering about the size of the houses. How big is the houses if the big family? Because when I look at the picture, it's kind of small houses. It's almost the same size, no matter how big is the family. That's the first. And the second for Melissa, sorry, Melissa, it's kind of like interrogation you. Okay. What is the deed, the title deed of the houses and the land? Is it the ownership or is it still the government land and then they only own the building? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll give the speaker a chance to answer your questions now. Before we continue, we have two more questions in the chat box. Please, Miss Melinda and Miss Melissa. We have similar names.
Thank you so much, Ibu Rina. I think, first of all, our survey, as I mentioned in my presentation, does not mean to predict or to provide like a very specific view, but I would say it's rather a conversation starter between Southeast Asian member countries to see why Bruneian have this perspective, and then why Indonesian think that way, why the view about fossil fuel subsidy is very, the view to remove fossil fuel subsidy is very strong in this particular country, but not. It's more like we provide the data, and usually regional media, newspapers, pick our data, and then they interpret their own messaging from our survey. So in some way, our survey is more like a tool for advocacy as well. Regarding our limitation, I would say that first, it's very climate mitigation focus, as you probably see in the report. We asked a lot of questions about decarbonization, about fossil fuel subsidies, like direct activities that contribute in reducing carbon emissions. But we don't really ask about adaptation specifically. But this year we introduced several questions, especially about food security, right? Because it's adaptation as well. Yeah, I need your views, your expertise, what to include in the future in our survey. And then probably one of the most interesting finding here, I would say that Southeast Asians, they're very how to say it, maybe confused is not the right word, but they're very diverse in their perspective about actors involved in climate change. They're quite so. For instance, if I in the question about who is the most important actor to tackle climate change, a lot of people in this region still think that national government is the one who's supposed to be responsible. It's their view is rather, thinking about climate change should be led by national governments. But when we ask who is the most active, they are thinking about civil society. And then, but we ask also at the individual level how your participation in climate change. They're not really that active, right? It's so passive. They only follow news and so on, and probably they're willing in some degree adapt to more sustainable lifestyle. So I think understanding like this national governments, what can national governments do their individual contribution can do, and then also civil society can do, is very important for the region, because now the perspective is very messy, I would say.
Okay, thank you, Miss Melinda and Miss Melissa, please.
Can I just turn off my video, because or else I will be, my internet is saying unstable.
No worries, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Rina, for that questions. You're asking about the houses of the size of the house that we built during, actually we have different types of houses depending on the context. So like for example, for Typhoon Haiyan, we have built housing size with 24 square meter. So, and then it's composed of light materials and half cement. Yeah. And for the Marawi, for the post-conflict rehabilitations, we have another design of house that we built. So it's full concrete, but it's 42 square meter, because we learn in the culture of the Maranao, they're quite clannish, and so they're more bigger families coming over, and they're extending families living with them. So we design the house depending on the context. And for the ownership, it's at the end of the project, the home partners or the families will be given the house and lot award, so that they really the funds for the house is grant of. We are very thankful for the generosity of the Japanese government, and the Philippine government is really giving the land. It's a partnership of the international community, the funder, and of course the Philippine government. So at the end of the project, the home partners will receive the certificate of house and lot award. Yeah, that secured them that they really own the unit, no? And they have this policies, because we organize them into homeowners associations, and later they will have federated homeowners associations. So they have set of officers who will handle all the processing in the documents. Yeah, so it's really secured that the home partners own the lot and house. I have another questions here in the group chat. So how can I can
Yes.
I
You got a question from Mr. Shaiku Putunezar. But before you answering the questions, I would like to ask all the participants and the speakers can you please turn on your camera? So I would like to take a screenshot of our meetings today. Yeah, please, while we're waiting to answer the next questions, please turn on your camera so I can take a screenshot of the screen today. For all the participants, please. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Okay, I'll count to 10 maybe before we start screenshotting. Okay, I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, I think I'll start from the first page. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And then the next page, 1, 2, 3. And then the next page, 1, 2, 3. And then we have the last page, 1, 2, 3. It's almost 100 participants that entering this seminar today. So we'll continue to the next questions in the chat box. We have 3 questions. I hope all the speakers can answer it directly. So first from Arif Rifadi to Professor Masatoshi Kaimasu. He wants to ask about the disasters in Japan, and his question is, what measures has Japan taken to prepare for and mitigate natural disasters? Thank you. That's the first question. Prof. Masatoshi Kaimasu.
Yeah, just a moment. Okay, yeah. So I think there's a clear measure exists in Japan. So for the Japanese government, so the like a typhoon. So typhoon all the time. They also just like I said, check it. Then the Japanese authority will check that the typhoon comes. Then also they predict using like a supercomputer to predict the which route it comes, or like say the scale, the disaster, the typhoon. Then they can easily to predict. Then if it's categorized as super typhoon, so they also give the warning to the Japanese people. But for the earthquake, so we have some very sensitive system. So like say, maybe just like a 5 second or the few seconds before the earthquake. So they like say, mobile phone would be run, give the warning sound, the sound. Then so the beep sound. Then so to notify that like earthquake is coming, very very soon. Then so but also if the earthquake happen, then also we can like measure like say what kind how many magnitude, or the maybe forget the the scale of the earthquake, and also tsunami. Also the meteorology department, the authority also check the tsunami. If the tsunami come, then so if tsunami come, they also like say to announce TV like this. Yeah. So we have the measure, but actually it's I think I need to clarify what kind of measure to like evacuate, or like say just like say ignore like this. And also for the people like in a region, different region, they also different like say damage or no damage, and it's depend on like say the time, and also so the especially like a typhoon like this. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Professor Masatoshi, thank you for your answer. And because it's already, the clock has already shown that it's 2 p.m. and we have 2 last questions in here. I would like to ask from the speakers to maybe can give an answer to us by email or by WhatsApp regarding these 2 questions, and we can give the answer in the news of this webinar in our campus. So you don't for the question for the participants, please do not worry that your question is unanswered, will be left unanswered. We will ask the speakers to give their recommendations and also answers, and it will be shown in our news of this international sharing forums today. So it's already is already up. I'm thanking you so much, especially for all the speakers and all the participants. I was thanking first of all Ms. Nukila Evanty as the Executive Director from Women Working Group. Thank you for your kindness today, and also for all the speakers today. We have Ms. Melinda Martinus, we have Professor Masatoshi Kaimasu, we have also Professor Annu Singh, and Miss Melissa Dajay from Philippines. Okay, for everybody, thank you so much. Ninne Zahara saying goodbye for this International Sharing Forum. Thank you.